The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, the APhA-ASP and New Practitioner Network webinar series on the Chapter Mentor Program. We're going to go ahead and get started. Please be aware that while we're on the webinar, if you have any questions, please use the text box to text those in, and we will address any questions that you have at the end of the webinar. On tonight's webinar, we have 3 speakers from the New Practitioner Advisory Committee. The first speaker is myself. My name is Angela Olinek, and I'm a member at large. Next, we'll have David Steed speaking, and he's actually the New Practitioner Advisory Committee Chair. And then finally, we're going to have Kevin Barton speaking, who is also a member at large on the New Practitioner Advisory Committee. We're going to start off tonight's call with a quick poll, which should be appearing on your screen momentarily. So please feel free to go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. You should have the poll up on your screen now, as Angela mentioned. We just want to get a quick reference for who's joining us tonight. So if you're a chapter advisor, chapter president or president-elect, current chapter mentor, or another chapter leadership position, go ahead and click on that. Or we know that we've got some people that are interested in either serving as a mentor or learning about the program. So go ahead and type in those responses now. And it looks like almost everyone has voted, so I'll give you just a few more seconds to do so. All right, we got everybody. Here are the results. So the majority of people on tonight's webinar are presidents and president-elects. Welcome. David's going to give you some great tips on how to best utilize your mentors. So, Angela, with that, I will turn things back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. So we're going to start, and please bear with me if the slides don't change as fast as I'd like them to. So we're going to start off and just talking about, what are the benefits of having a new practitioner mentor? And a new practitioner mentor is essentially just like it sounds. It's a new practitioner who's in their first 5 years of practice following graduation from pharmacy school who can really assist the chapter. And this can occur on many different levels. There's no particular guide and say exactly what the new practitioner mentor has to do, but they can provide some advice to chapter members, both within APhA-ASP as well as career advice and postgraduate opportunities. They can help support the chapter leaders and members, and they can also serve as a pharmacist preceptor at your chapter events. So think about activities like patient care projects, policy and advocacy, as well as professionalism and chapter development. There are many other ways to be involved, and later David will share some of his experiences on what he had done at the chapter level. So if you're interested in finding a mentor or you're interested in becoming a mentor, we are currently recruiting for the 2016 to 2017 academic year. The requirements are pretty simple and straightforward. A mentor needs to be a new practitioner member within APhA, so that means they're within their first 5 years post-graduation from pharmacy school. They cannot be serving as the APhA-ASP advisor or co-advisor, and they really need to have an interest to serve and assist the chapter and really be motivated to do so. So there are some strategies on finding a mentor if you're not really sure how to go about it. You can ask some recent graduates who stayed in the local area. Maybe they signed on with a hospital or a community pharmacy that's local, or maybe and did a residency or fellowship. And that means there also might be new residents or fellows. So perhaps ask your faculty members who the new residents and fellows are at their practice site, who you might be able to recruit in order to be your new practitioner mentor. These include both PGY1 and PGY2 residents, or could be new faculty members who are still within their first 5 years post-graduation. Don't feel that you need to be limited to one new practitioner mentor. We really encourage you to have multiple new practitioner mentors. That way you have a broad variety of experiences that they can bring to your chapter level, and also different practice sites. So that might be really helpful when you're doing patient care efforts. If you need to find a new practitioner mentor, or you're interested in becoming a new practitioner mentor, please contact APHA's Tom English for help in finding a local new practitioner. And we will have his contact information again at the end of the presentation, so don't feel rushed in writing that down at the moment. So in recruiting for a new practitioner mentor, if maybe you know someone who wants to be a new practitioner mentor, or those of you who are interested who are on the call, there are many benefits in becoming a new practitioner mentor. So it helps the new practitioner mentor remain inspired and involved. Many new grads want to stay involved with an APHA, and they're looking for an avenue to do so. And doing those patient care projects is something that they're familiar with, but now they can do that on another level and help organize and be that preceptor pharmacist at the event. It also gives them a little bit of variety in their career. So if they're working in a health system, it can help them get out in the community and maybe do some more community outreach than they're able to within their health system. It's also a professional resource, so we really encourage networking and meeting others. And also it helps identify future resident employees. So you never know, as a new practitioner mentor, who you're going to meet that might work at the School of Pharmacy, and it may help you obtain a job in the future. So how to involve a new practitioner mentor, and this is something I think a lot of chapters struggle with and a lot of new practitioner mentors struggle with. Our goal is to have at least one new practitioner mentor at every APhA-ASP chapter. Once again, I mentioned earlier that you could have more than one new practitioner mentor from various practice settings. And continue to brainstorm unique ways to get your new practitioner mentor involved with your chapter. We had mentioned community events, patient care projects, and advocacy, but feel free to get your new practitioner involved with your executive board meetings and maybe your chapter retreats as well. So you want to make sure that there's clear communication between the new practitioner mentor and the chapter. So discuss your expectations early on. As soon as your APhA-ASP chapter is doing your planning meeting for the year, invite your new practitioner mentor to come meet with the executive board. That way you can establish a communication plan and also establish your own expectations. And the new practitioner mentor will be able to see what you guys are planning for the year, and they'll be able to voice how they think that they can best help out with your event. Make sure that you keep the new practitioner mentor within your communication system. So we're encouraging that the chapter president-elect should act as a liaison to the new practitioner mentor. That way there's a direct line between the chapter and the new practitioner mentor. Some strategies to help you do this is to share a calendar. Many chapters use a Google Drive calendar. You can also keep the new practitioner mentor on a preceptor list and also include them on all of your email communications out to the chapters. And then once the year starts, make sure to introduce your chapter members to the new practitioner mentor to let them know that this person is here as a resource and a guide for them throughout their year. So some of the professional development types of activities that you might be able to invite the new practitioner mentor include leader retreats, chapter meetings, regional and national meetings, the spring membership drive, and informal membership, such as CV reviews, career advice, career panels, as well as assistance with prepping for interviews. Some of the patient care events that they might be able to help you participate with is that they can precept events. So your new practitioner should be a licensed pharmacist, and you really need a licensed pharmacist at your patient care events. So this person might be able to help you with blood pressure clinics, immunizations, or anything else that you could think of. They can help train their chapter members. I know in the past we've had new practitioner members do like a blood pressure workshop, and they actually are in charge of teaching the chapter members how to take blood pressure. They can also assist with the National Patient Counseling Competition, both in grading and organizing the competition, and then also at the end of the year helping to proofread those chapter reports. So there are many numerous opportunities. We really encourage you now while you're in the planning phase to really brainstorm your ideas for the year and really inspire the APhA-ASP mission and recruit new members and spark further interest in your current members. And make sure that you're really including your new practitioner mentor in every opportunity possible, and use what connections your chapter or your faculty members have in the community. Just as an FYI, there will be a toolkit for the chapters online. It's currently not available, but it's being revised for this upcoming year. So it will be sent out to all the chapter members and will be available online in late September, but it will have resources and materials there for your viewing. So I'm actually going to turn the presentation over to David Steve, who's going to talk about his experience as a new practitioner mentor.
Hey everybody, thanks a lot Angela for that great introduction. As Angela mentioned, my name is David Steve, and I have a chance to currently serve as Clinical Assistant Professor and Director of Global Engagement at the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy. And for the next few slides, I thought I would just share a little bit about my own personal experience about being a new practitioner mentor for the chapter here at UNC. So a little bit of an overview of what I ended up doing during my time as a new practitioner mentor. I was one at UNC from 2013 until 2015. This happened to be the same time while I was doing my fellowship. I graduated in 2013 and was pretty involved as a student within APhA-ASP. And when I graduated, I was looking for an outlet to continue my professional development, and I found the APhA New Practitioner Network and the opportunity to serve as a mentor as a great outlet to continue that and lend my knowledge that I had from my experiences as a student. So for all the presidents and president-elects out there of chapters, please keep this in mind. Even if you're a second or a third year student, I assure you graduation will approach sooner than later, and you may find yourself in the same opportunity and asking yourself the same question of what should I do now? And I think being a new practitioner mentor is a great option within APhA. So the second point here, as far as currently providing guidance to new practitioner mentors, the reason I was only a new practitioner mentor for the first 2 years out of my first 5 years of being a new practitioner is that quickly, our chapter, as Angela had mentioned, gained more than one new practitioner mentor. When I joined in 2013, I was one of 2 new practitioner mentors. Myself and a colleague of mine who was across the street at UNC Hospitals in the residency program served as our chapter mentors. But quickly, by the time it reached 2015, and currently, today, we have 6 to 7 chapter mentors, and so I decided to step down and serve almost as an ex officio mentor to the mentors. So I hope your chapter has the opportunity to have at least one new practitioner mentor, but please keep in mind that you should always be striving to perhaps look at other new practitioner mentors in different pharmacy practice settings. So as I mentioned here, I absolutely collaborated with my colleague who is the other new practitioner mentor in the health system setting. And as you see from the last point, most of my focus in being a new practitioner mentor was really on chapter operations, leadership, and professional development, as well as helping the chapter with their Chapter Achievement Awards program reports. As we all know, those also come up quickly and require a lot of time editing and could always use a second pair of eyes. And the health system mentor that I worked with, she was pretty active as far as within the patient care project arena, and so we met together to make sure that we covered all the chapter needs and priorities for that year and during that time period. Some things that I did while I was a mentor was I made sure that I attended the annual chapter retreat and monthly meetings. I'll get into this a little bit further in just a slide or two. I attended the mid-year regional meeting and the annual meeting and exposition. I found that these were great opportunities to connect with students. So for those chapters that do have a new practitioner or mentor, please make sure that the mentor knows of these meetings. Sometimes new practitioner mentors may not have been involved in APhA-ASP prior, so they may not be as familiar with things such as MRM or that acronym even, or when annual meeting for APhA may occur. It may be a new opportunity for them, so don't necessarily assume that they know when it is. Make sure to extend that invitation and reach out to them about such as those. I met one-on-one with chapter leaders and students often. I often had students come in to my office to discuss their leadership aspirations, their challenges of working with others within the chapter on projects, how to secure preceptor oversight and maybe funding for activities. And I also serve as a liaison to other academic-based preceptors and new practitioners that might be able to assist with what they want to accomplish. And as mentioned, my focus is really on a lot of the administrative and leadership aspects of running an effective chapter and organization. So from these experiences, there's a few key successful points I'd like to point out to everyone on the call. The first is the relationship between the chapter advisor and the chapter president is absolutely critical. I almost think of this relationship as a triangle, where the three, to be effective, really have to work on the same page and be well connected together in order to understand what is needed, what is desired, and what needs to ultimately be done. So I made sure right when I signed up to be a new practitioner mentor to introduce myself to the chapter advisor as a new practitioner mentor. I had a great relationship as a student, but I also wanted to set new expectations as a new practitioner mentor now that I wasn't a student anymore. And then also I built a relationship with the chapter president to make sure that they understood that I was always available if needed for anything that was going on. As I mentioned, I want to talk about this a little bit further. The first year I was a new practitioner mentor, I did not have the chance to attend the chapter retreat. And the second year I did, and it was a 180 as far as me better understanding what exactly the chapter wanted to do and what the chapter needed. I think it's really important for the new practitioner mentors to understand and, if possible, listen to what the chapter is saying as far as what their priorities and goals are for that year, because often new practitioner mentors, including myself, we have limited time sometimes to contribute towards chapter activities. So it's a good point in the year, usually before the semester kicks off, for the new practitioner mentor to reflect from those goals and priorities discussed during retreat, which maybe one or two they can help with the most. And that could serve as a really good framework to reach out and find other new practitioner mentors that can help with the other goals and priorities for the chapter. And attending the chapter meetings on a monthly basis was also a great touch point, just so that the students were aware of who I was and that I was available to help, and that they didn't think I was too busy, and that they knew that I was there really to help out. Getting to know the chapter leaders, I think, was the main filter to the rest of the students in the chapter. As I mentioned, the chapter president and working with the advisor in that triangle relationship is probably the first step, but afterwards I made sure to reach out to the chair of Operation Heart and Operation Diabetes and the other patient care projects and the other new initiatives that our chapter has to make sure that they know who I was and that I was available. Being available is key, and it also, I think, helps set an example for how maybe the student can get involved later on and continue that example with whatever chapter they're closest to when they accept a job, residency, a fellowship, or some other postgraduate training opportunity. Now, with successful points, I also realized there were some barriers at times when I was serving as a new practitioner mentor. The number one barrier, and this probably does not come as a surprise, was time. I realized that often I couldn't make all the chapter meetings per se, and sometimes, even though I was based in the fellowship academically here at the school, I had other meetings I need to attend during the same common hour that our chapter met, which made it difficult to balance multiple responsibilities at the same time. So I would encourage for all the new practitioner mentors or aspiring mentors that are on the call to make sure to utilize some type of calendar system, and once again, setting expectations down with the chapter advisor and chapter president will really be helpful earlier on in the year, and probably each year that you serve as a new practitioner mentor, to understand what the expectations are on each side. And typically, most new practitioner mentors will serve in some type of pharmacist, preceptor, or assistant capacity for at least 2 to 3 events each year. But most new practitioner mentors go well above and beyond that number. For me personally, a barrier was chapter familiarity. As I mentioned, I was fairly involved as a student within APhA-ASP, and having been a student at my UNC chapter and then also doing a fellowship at UNC, I was well aware of some of the people involved within the chapter, and I think sometimes I lacked probably a bit of a diverse outsider perspective. I think it's always appreciated when you have new practitioner mentors at your chapter who may come from a different chapter. They may be familiar with a different culture or a different way to get things done. And because I was a student and a postdoc and a new practitioner mentor all at the same institution, it was hard for me at times to really provide a diverse perspective or opinion. So I think, once again, if you're able to have more than one new practitioner mentor, having one in more than one practice setting is helpful, but it's also helpful having more than one new practitioner mentor from a different institution, because they're going to be familiar with different policies and procedures about how they go about things from when they were a student, if they were involved at their chapter. And then finally, one of the last major mentor barriers was something that I've actually seen at other student chapters across the U.S., and that's a lack of chapter understanding as to the purpose and the use of the new practitioner mentor. And I keep going back to it, but it's extremely important. This triangle relationship between the advisor and the president helps set expectations, responsibilities, and understanding, which hopefully can go out to the chapter at meetings. It's always great, I think, to also have a new practitioner mentor introduced to the chapter, either at the retreat or if they cannot make the retreat, at least at one of the first chapter meetings that you would have, just to put a face with the name and also to have the contact information. But I think originally it wasn't well explained as far as how to use the mentor and what resource capacity they can serve in. So communication is key, as in many aspects of leadership and development in general. I felt it was important for me to know what is going on in the chapter. That's where the monthly attendance of the chapter meetings really came into play. So always include or CC your new practitioner mentor on key pieces of communication. So even if they cannot attend because of work responsibilities, or if your chapter meeting is also during the day at an inconvenient time for some, that they're still aware of what's happening or what happens. So the email distribution list, I know some chapters utilize learning management sources like Blackboard or Moodle or Sakai. If it's possible to add an email address for the new practitioner mentor to that site, that way the new practitioner mentor is going to receive all the announcements and emails that are sent out to the rest of the members. Social media is an increasingly easy way to keep up to date. I think it's also a little bit dependent as far as the background of the new practitioner mentor. For me, most of my engagement in social media happens on LinkedIn and Twitter. Facebook, not too much, so to speak. I also think in part it's because of maintaining that student-faculty relationship that for the most part I try to usually not use Facebook as a priority means of social media communication, but for others it may be more appropriate and a more preferred way to communicate with the chapter. And finally, for those new practitioner mentors out there, don't be afraid to ask. And also, I think this applies to the students that are on the call as well. Don't be afraid to ask the new practitioner mentor to help out with something, to do something. Always keep in mind to be respectful. You may not be familiar with everything that's going on or all the responsibilities that the new practitioner mentor may have, but as long as there's that open relationship, that new practitioner mentor should be clear in return as far as whether they can do something or not. So it goes both ways. The new practitioner mentor should always feel free to ask about what's happening within the chapter and how they can help. And also the students should be reaching out to the new practitioner mentor to ask what ways they may want to help or ask about certain projects or activities that they may want assistance with. So some of the activities they could lend assistance with, as Angela pointed out, some of this was already presented, but I think it's, just as valid to go over this again a little bit. Patient care projects, all the key patient care projects that APhA offers, those are all possibilities for pharmacist preceptor roles. There are also opportunities for editing or document creation, patient education handouts. There's a wide variety of activities that a new practitioner mentor can do within these patient care projects. CV reviews and interview practice, I think the students really appreciate both of these, especially the first-year students coming into pharmacy school. A great benefit that you can advertise as a chapter leader is that perhaps you have a new practitioner mentor that would be open to reviewing CVs for first-year student pharmacists or those that are about to go on interviews. I think that's a great selling point as far as getting more members involved and engaged and setting up interview practice. For the most part, the new practitioner mentor has gone through at least one round of interview, wherever he or she may be. They've been through the process. They've obviously been successful, and I think they can lend that perspective of helping the student aspire towards whatever their postgraduate plans may be. As Angela also mentioned, the NPCC is another great opportunity to either in person or I know some chapters video record the NPCC interviews and to judge them. And the more new practitioner mentors you have, the more that you can spread out that time that it takes to watch and review all the different competitors. Report reviews, the one caveat I will say here is it's a great way to get new practitioners and new practitioner mentors involved. I will say, though, that if you plan on using your new practitioner mentor as a report reviewer, please, please, please do so more than a few days in advance of the deadline. I know many of us out there on the call, and I've seen it and I've been part of it, that July 15th, the deadline for the Chapter Achievement Awards report comes, and many of you are scrambling to collate and put together the final touches. That's probably not the best time to reach out to the new practitioner mentor, but I would say at least a week or two in advance would be good notice if you want to utilize your mentor in that capacity. And then something that our chapter at UNC really loved and appreciated was I did a few presentations on professional development and networking at National Association meetings as well as on mid-year regional meetings. So I think that the perspective that you bring as a new practitioner mentor, and once again the success that you've had being a student and now a working pharmacist, can be crucial for the students to understand, especially the networking component. I know networking often gets a bad twist and some people have a negative perception of the term networking and what it means, but it's really about how you can help other people and helping the students understand that from a new practitioner network perspective, or maybe sharing your story as a new practitioner mentor about how networking actually helped you get to be where you are, land the job or residency or fellowship that you were aspiring towards. It's a great tip for students to think forward when they go to these meetings and utilize them to the most of their ability. Along the lines of professional development, there's some other things that, of course, you can get involved with besides doing presentations on professional development. First and foremost is the leader retreats and chapter meetings. The more face time I think that the chapter gets with a new practitioner mentor, the more they realize that they're available, and the more likely I think the chapter and the leaders are comfortable reaching out to the new practitioner mentor. And it's just a great way to get to know each other. So these two aspects I found to be really important for enhancing the professional development for the chapter. As I mentioned, the regional and national meetings, I did my best to attend as much as I could both the regional and national level meetings for APhA and APhA-ASP. I already mentioned about the presentation on networking, and you can also dive further into the spring membership drive. Remember, a lot of those third-year students for four-year programs during the spring semester before they go out on rotations, it's really important to try to reel them in from a membership perspective, to utilize that dual membership option. So a lot of times the new practitioner mentor, myself included, would give a talk about the value of maintaining your APhA-ASP and APhA membership as you graduate from being a student. And that's typically done over lunch or some food function. So a few pearls of wisdom and advice I have here. First point, 10-chapter retreat if you can. Once again, not all new practitioner mentors are going to be able to, but they also will not be able to if the chapters don't communicate well with the new practitioner mentor that it's happening and when the date is. But this is probably the best way, from my perspective, to understand what does the chapter need, what does the chapter want, how far is that gap, and where can you fit in to really connect them and get them to where they want to be. Second, maintain communication with chapter leader and advisor, that triangle relationship. If you haven't considered building it after this webinar, please bring that up with your chapter to see if you can get that going. Listen and ask questions. I think as a new practitioner mentor, a key pearl of advice I would give to other aspiring mentors or mentors is before asking questions, it's usually a good idea to just listen, to see what's going on, especially if you're not familiar with the chapter. And so listen to all the chapter members' voices to see what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get at. And then after an appropriate amount of time of listening, then ask key questions of the group. Also, for students getting to know their new practitioner mentor, I'd encourage you all to listen to their story, listen to their career plans, listen to their responsibilities in their job or their postgraduate training, like a residency or fellowship. That way, you might be able to help suggest some opportunities or to bring up opportunities to the new practitioner mentor that may align with their already existing responsibilities. That way, it creates this relationship and it helps really shape the experience. And then finally, as I mentioned early, I was one of just 2 new practitioner mentors when our chapter started getting involved in this space. And then finally, it's now grown to 6 or 7 chapter mentors. I would even call it an ad hoc committee. And the network of new practitioner mentors is endless. You probably don't want too many, but having a good, solid network of a few new practitioner mentors can help round out the chapter. It takes off the burden of the new practitioner mentor of trying to address all the needs and priorities of what the chapter wants to accomplish, and it helps diversify the perspective that your chapter members are going to get. So a few lessons learned from this experience. First is that new practitioner mentors really have a great experience to share. I love the chance to just sit down and talk with the chapter and tell them why I even got involved in APhA-ASP. I always loved sharing the story. My first mid-year regional meeting, and there was only 2 students in the chapter that wanted to go because it was Halloween, and that meeting was the absolute pivotal meeting that led to my national involvement and my current involvement, and it's why I continue to be involved so much in APhA and will always continue to be involved so much within this association. Balancing your involvement in job residency responsibilities, I think for new practitioners, it helps them in the long run. Not necessarily for the students to advertise to the mentors, but if you have a mentor that's thinking about, well, I'm not sure what the exact benefit might be to get involved, absolutely, if you can help them understand how this can inspire or motivate them to continue to strive towards the balance and to stay involved with the profession that they cared so much and joined originally, that might be a good selling point. Forming relationships with chapter leaders and advisors takes time. Now, I think I benefited from being fairly familiar with the chapter at UNC. However, most new practitioner mentors aren't necessarily going to be in their job or postgraduate placement at the same place where they were a student. So that relationship isn't going to form overnight, and that's why I pointed out that maybe listening should take first before asking. But let it take some time to grow and see where it develops, and make sure to set those expectations. Understanding chapter needs and priorities is key. I think I emphasize that quite a bit, but especially at chapter retreat or meetings, and that triangle relationship. And being a new practitioner mentor is really, it's a professionally rewarding and enriching experience. For me, I just want to give back. I want to understand how I can really inspire that next generation of student pharmacists to go above and beyond of what they may think they're even capable of or their chapter, and watching them grow, whether I think the students realize it or not, I get a lot of professional satisfaction of talking with one student, even just for a meeting, and lending some advice. And sometimes the students will, take your advice. Sometimes they won't take your advice, and it's for them to decide. But really seeing the students take what you say to them and turn it into something meaningful for themselves and for others, you can't really capture that on a CV or an interview, but it's really a powerful moment for me that drives my motivation now and moving forward. So finally, takeaways. I feel like I've had a lot, but there's just a lot to take away from being a new practitioner mentor. For the mentors out there, if you don't know what you want to get out of the relationship, they won't know how to utilize you. The same could be said, though, for students, for those president and president-elects out there. If you don't know how you want to best utilize the new practitioner or mentor or have suggestions, it may fall by the wayside. You may never have that communication. It's not about giving them the right answer, and this is for new practitioner mentors, but making sure they're asking the right question. So students will also, and chapters will seek advice and perspective on a wide variety of topics and areas. And I think the challenge for me at first was I thought I had the answer, and I wanted to always lend the answer to whatever question the chapter was asking me. But then after I thought about it for a while, it's almost depriving the students and the chapter from the opportunity to figure out, and trial by error sometimes, figure out what the right way should be. So my perspective on a lot of the new practitioner mentor student chapter relationship is not necessarily to just give them answers, but to make sure that they're thinking about the right question. So when a question is asked about, how do we, or maybe the number one question, how do we win, the chapter achievement award and place and get one of the awards? And that is a signal to me, from my perspective, is what are they focusing on? Is the award the most valuable part, or is it the process of getting to the award, which is about establishing your goals and the impact that you want to leave behind? So I'll often help the chapter rephrase their questions and aspirations in ways that makes them think again about what they're trying to really do and what they're really trying to accomplish. And you've heard this, it's not original phrase, but you really do get out what you put in. As I mentioned, I don't have time to participate in all the events. Sometimes I can't make all the meetings, but because the chapter communicates well with me, because I'm on the email listserv, because I've established a relationship with the advisor and the president and let them know that I'm available for them, I know what's going on in general, and when I'm able to, I can plug myself in to certain events, or if I'm asked to, I can make room on my calendar for certain activities. So that is it for my end. Thanks for your time for listening, and I will hand it off to Kevin Barton for questions.
Thank you, David, for the wonderful insights. I know with the diverse audience we have today, I know anyone could take away some value information from that, so appreciate that. But while we collect some questions, I do have a few announcements for the audience. So first, I just want to discuss some APhA New Practitioner opportunities. Currently, we have our APhA Distinguished New Practitioner Award currently out for applications. You can see the link at the bottom. But what this award, it demonstrates the new practitioner has demonstrated the distinctive achievements in membership, service, and commitment to the profession of pharmacy. And this distinguished new practitioner must be an APhA member pharmacist within his or her first 5 years of graduation, and the application is due November 1st. However, you can go to the form at the link below, and no matter if you're a chapter president, president-elect, you can definitely nominate your new practitioner mentor or your new practitioner that you know of, or if you happen to be a new practitioner on the call today and you've done some pretty amazing things in your community, by all means feel free to nominate yourself as well. Now, there was a lot of discussion about involvement, and I wanted to list here all the different opportunities you have as a new practitioner in all of these APhA leadership positions. So you have the New Practitioner Advisory Committee, which Angela, David, and I serve on today. You have the APhA APPM New Practitioner Officer, the APhA APRS Postgraduate Officer, Transitions Editorial Advisory Board, and you have the APhA New Practitioner Network Standing Committees, which are broken down into communications and networking, education and professional development, and membership and involvement. And I guarantee you and truthfully say that all of these positions are just as important as the others in bringing our profession forward and helping as a new practitioner. It's some great ways to be involved, and it's a very rewarding experience. And last but not least, how do we stay connected? Go on Facebook, like us on Facebook, the APhA New Practitioner Network. You can get more information, like we had talked about. If you're a student, 2 years is going to come by fast. So if you're interested in becoming a new practitioner after you graduate, it's a great way to get some resources from current new practitioners and those that are interested just to share information. It's a great way to interact with each other. Also, I don't think we have a slide, but definitely want to promote the Engage platform that we have on pharmacist.com. It's also a great way to utilize your resources, get involved in the social community, the digital community, and get the information you need. Last but not least, I want to leave the contact information up here. Again, like Angela had pointed out in the beginning of the presentation, Tom English, the APhA Director of New Practitioner Development. His email address is there. Also want to leave you with David Steeb's information as the New Practitioner Advisory Committee Chair. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and as you can tell, he's got some experience as a new practitioner mentor as well, a very valuable asset to the new practitioner environment. So Crystal, I will go ahead and stop there and see if we have any questions that have come in.
All right, well, we do have a couple of questions. So the first one is, will these slides be available? And they will. We've actually been recording and we will be posting the recording soon on the APhA-ASP YouTube channel. You'll be able to access that either by simply Googling the topic through YouTube, or we will post a couple of links both on the APhA-ASP portion of pharmacist.com as well as the new practitioner portion. One of our other questions, and David, you might have some experience with this since UNC does have multiple campuses. If you don't have a new practitioner in the area, but you know someone and they're interested in mentoring the chapter virtually, is that something that can be done, and what would your advice be in that situation?
That's a really good question, and my thought is absolutely. I think with technology today, it's very common to have Skype meetings or video teleconferencing meetings. We do that all the time with the satellite campus that we have here at UNC in the Asheville region. So I think if you know somebody that is interested in serving, but they may be at a remote location in relation to where the school is located, I think that's a great way to start a relationship and to have some distance-based feedback. It could be a really great opportunity also, depending on where that new practitioner mentor is, for the chapter to do some outreach in new areas that they haven't done before. That way, the new practitioner mentor can actually face-to-face interact with the chapter in addition to perhaps videoing or Skyping in on some of the chapter meetings or chapter sessions. So I think that's a great idea.
And so, David, as people are going out and recruiting mentors, one of the questions is around time commitment. So if you had to ballpark it on average, how much time do you think the new practitioner mentor spends with the chapter, let's say weekly to monthly?
Yeah, so of course I'll preface my response with it. It's going to depend and be different based on those chapter needs, priorities, and the desires and time availability of the new practitioner mentor. For myself, from a weekly perspective, or rather monthly perspective, I always have at least an hour blocked off on my calendar for the chapter meeting. And then usually there's a couple hours of emails and other meetings to take place with some of the chapter leaders or some of the chapter members that want to discuss something. So it could be as little as a couple hours a month to a couple hours a week, depending on the time of the year and what people are trying to get engaged and involved with. As I mentioned, a ballpark minimum expectation for the new practitioner mentors is at least 2 to 3 events or activities per year. However, many go above and beyond that, and I find myself typically involved with 1 or 2 things per month. So I hope that answers the question. I would say at least a few hours each month, but it could be less than that, it could be more than that, all depending on the availability and what the chapter is really trying to get out of the new practitioner mentor.
So David, kind of on the other side, for you personally, maybe reflecting just a bit on how mentors have worked to influence you and why that mentor role is so important.
So is the question how I've been influenced by mentors?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the big reasons that I think I'm involved as much as I am today, or at least try to be, than I was when I was a student is because as a student, I had some pretty great pharmacy and even outside of pharmacy mentors. And the one common link they all had is they were all very involved within their respective professions and national associations. And they kind of taught me indirectly. Nobody said, you know, you need to be involved or you need to be engaged. But through the stories and meetings, I understood, you know, what it could do and what it meant to be involved and to be engaged within the profession that you join, whatever it is. And for us on the call here, it's pharmacy. So watching them was kind of my indirect way of learning how to be engaged and the reason I should be engaged, and really trying to make the impact and legacy that they had on their students and those around them. I wanted to be part of that, and one of the best ways to do so was to continue to be involved, especially with the student organizations and the chapter at APhA-ASP.
So this is a really good next question regarding the MRMs and annual meetings. Is it a requirement for new practitioners to attend those with the chapter? It's part one. And then part two, if you are attending as a mentor, what kind of things should you do with your chapter at the meeting?
Is this for MRM, annual, or is this just both?
I would say both.
Okay. Well, I don't think I would say it's a requirement. The reality of the situation is, you know, as I mentioned, I think I'm in a bit of a unique position, being or having been a new practitioner mentor at the same institution and at an academic organization that has an APhA-ASP chapter. I think a lot of the new practitioner mentors out there, they aren't necessarily on faculty or in an academic position. So it may be harder for them because they have different flexibility with their work schedules to attend those meetings. So no, I don't think it's a requirement. I think once again, it's about presenting the opportunity and communicating with the new practitioner mentor that it's available and that the chapter would love to have them attend. Recently, APhA has been trying to explore further options at meetings such as the mid-year regional meeting and especially annual meeting to engage new practitioner mentors. So right now, I would say there's a lot more programming. There's actually specific programming at the annual meeting each year, which typically occurs in March, for new practitioners to get involved. So the New Practitioner Network has a series of what we call meetups at the annual meeting. We typically have 3, and often they involve usually some coffee morning sessions. We will bring in some board of trustees to talk with new practitioner mentors to really lend insight to us about how they evolved in their career and what they did to get to be where they are. It's a great networking opportunity with other new practitioners. And then also specifically each year at the annual meeting, we have a session for new practitioner mentors for them to connect with each other, to give them recognition for service to the chapter, and to help them understand some new ways or tips that they can utilize their chapter and engage the members within the chapter back home. So I would definitely say that for a new practitioner mentor, annual meeting would be a great outlet that you can serve the needs of your chapter by helping them out there for student programming, but there's a ton of new practitioner programming at annual meeting. Typically for the mid-year regional meetings, most of it has been focused on the student development piece, but I think still there is value for new practitioner mentors to go with their chapter if they're able to, especially if it's geographically close to them, to attend the mid-year, because often I find a lot of first-year and second-year students will attend the MRMs, and it's probably a better way to more informally get to know the chapter. So I think you can make it what you want, but there's opportunities at both, but especially annual meeting. And no, I don't think it would be a requirement.
All right, we just have a couple questions left. So David, if you are someone that wants to serve as a new practitioner mentor, but you haven't been contacted by a school or college of pharmacy, what should you do?
Ooh, that's another great question. Well, I think if you're out there and you want to be a new practitioner mentor, but you haven't been approached yet, first I wouldn't take it personally. As I mentioned on the barrier slides, a lot of chapters are, honestly still raising awareness about what the new practitioner mentor program is and what it can do. So that would be my first point to say. But I think it would be great if you're interested to go ahead and reach out to one of the chapter leaders. If the chapter has contact information on the website, to contact the president or president-elect, I think that's a great first step. And then also to bring in the chapter advisor, that might work as well. Or you can email both. But I'd probably start with an email to one of the chapter leaders and or the advisor to just introduce yourself, that you're so-and-so and that you're doing X, Y, and Z, that you would love to help. And instead of just saying that you would love to help and let me know, I would actually encourage you to actively try to set up a meeting, whether it's a phone call or in person if possible. In that email, say, hey, I would love to meet to learn more about your chapter, what you're trying to do, and to see if there's a way that I might be able to help. And having that triangle relationship meeting, I think, is probably the best first step for that.
I would also throw in there, if at any time you have questions about getting started as a mentor, or if you're going through things, of course you can always reach out to either Tom or David, and their contact information, if they're on the screen. They can also help you with getting in touch with the right people and pointing you in the right direction. And so then our last question of the evening was regarding if you're a chapter and you're in search for a mentor. Again, Tom and David would be able to assist you. Tom specifically would be able to, he keeps a running list of who's looking to serve and who needs someone to help them out. So shoot Tom English an email. And if you're looking to best utilize your new practitioner mentor, certainly the advice David provided tonight is a good starting point, but he would also be able to help you out with questions as they come up. So that is the end of our questions for this evening. So David, Angela, Kevin, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys to close us out.
All right. Well, from my end, I just want to appreciate everybody taking the time to be on the call tonight. I know it's not easy, speaking of time, to make it this far, especially later in the evening. So thank you for listening. And Angela, Kevin, any comments from you?
Nothing. Thanks for joining our webinar tonight.
Yeah, I just echo you, David. I appreciate everyone's time and flexibility tonight.
So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your time. And of course, please contact us if you have any questions, even if it's outside of being a new practitioner mentor. All three of us and the rest of our community, we'd really love to help you better understand more about the New Practitioner Network and how we may be able to help you in the future. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night.